No, I don't know a few people. It was terrible. Tomorrow's will be better. I don't think I can fake it. I need evidence. It's big, no? Ever since I entered physics, people have been talking about this machine. The Large Hadron Collider, the biggest machine ever built by human beings, is finally going to turn on. And after many, many years of waiting and theorizing about how matter got created and about what the deep fundamental theory of nature is, all those theories are finally going to be tested. And we're going to know something. And we don't know what it's going to be now, but we will know, and it's going to change everything. And if the LHC sees new particles, we're on the right track. And if it doesn't, not only have we missed something, but we may not ever know how to proceed. We are at a fork in the road, and it's either going to be a golden era, or it's going to be quite stark. And I've never heard of a moment like this in history, where an entire field is hinging on a single event. Hi. I'm David Fabiola. Nice to meet you.
So, look, I had suggested to be on this side because this big wheel is quite spectacular. More than ever, this will require the collaboration between a theory and experimentalists, so it will be a very nice period where we'll work together. And
well, it's fun to finally interact with experimentalists. I mean, I used to be just in my office coming up with crazy
you have
ideas.
to come and make your calculations here in front of this big, big instrument,
right
yes,
that
to
would
get
be
inspired. Yes.
It's a big thing. There is a general sense waiting for this machine to start, this massive machine that has taken so many years to build. We are all in great anticipation of what it might find. And every time there's even a rumor that a new particle is discovered, even before it turns on, the entire field goes into a fever pitch. The experiment was designed initially in the mid-'80s and has taken this long to construct. There are 10,000 people of over 100 nationalities. That includes countries which are mortal enemies of each other, like India and Pakistan and Georgia and Russia and Iran and Israel, all have physicists working on this machine. These big blue things are 7-ton superconducting magnets, which have to be cooled with liquid helium to the coldest temperatures on Earth, colder than empty space. There are 100,000 computers connected all over the world to deal with the data. In fact, the World Wide Web was invented at CERN so that physicists all over the planet could share the data. The United States was building a machine just like this. In fact, a bigger machine in Texas. But they ran into a small technical difficulty.
I doubt anyone believes that the most pressing issues facing the nation include an insufficient understanding of the origins of the universe.
Unfortunately, the superconducting supercollider was canceled by Congress in 1993.
And finally, he's saying, well, if we don't do it, the Europeans will do it. Let them do it. We'll steal their technology like they steal our technology.
It got very political. It was very expensive, very complicated. It's hard for physicists to explain why we do these kinds of experiments. The purpose of the machine is not military application, it's not commercial application. It's to understand something about the basic laws of physics. There are two kinds of particle physicists. There are the experimentalists. They build the big machines, run the experiments, analyze the data, and try to discover things, like new particles. And then there are the theorists, like me. We construct the theories that try to explain everything we see in nature. Without us, the experimentalists are in the dark. But without them, we'll never know the truth.
I mean, if you go, it won't be so terrible. But...
When I was at Stanford, I had a mentor, Savas Dimopoulos.
Right.
Savas only likes to work on the biggest puzzles.
Now, just for fun, I wanted to tell you that the enabling technologies that...
He has some of the most famous theories that will be tested at the LHC. But he doesn't know if any of them are true. So there's an intensity with which he approaches physics. If he works on a paper that could result in a Nobel Prize, he doesn't allow more than 3 people on the paper, because you can only share the Nobel Prize with 3 people. That's the level at which he's operating and the impact he's trying to have.
And takes us beyond the confines of atomic physics.
In particle physics, you have to have a threshold amount of intelligence, whatever that means. But the thing that differentiates scientists is purely an artistic ability to discern what is a good idea, what is a beautiful idea, what is worth spending time on, and most importantly, what is a problem that is sufficiently interesting, yet sufficiently difficult, that it hasn't yet been solved, but the time for solving it has come now.
So people have been waiting for this experiment, the LHC, for a very long time. Nothing like it has ever happened. All the superlatives are justified. This is the case where the hype is approximately accurate. To get 3,000 people to work on an experiment together, whose goal is to understand what's going on at distances 1,000 times smaller than the proton. This is a really extraordinary testament to what to some of the highest ideals we can have as human beings. It's
Nima and I got our PhDs around the same time. He's a couple years ahead of me. And Nima is the star of our generation. And he's the guy we all followed and looked up to and tried to keep up with and tried to outpace if we could.
Since the mid-70s, we've had an amazingly successful theory of nature that we call the Standard Model of Particle Physics. But sitting in the heart of the theory is a sickness, very, very glaring conceptual problems that infected this fantastic understanding. Why is the universe big? Why is gravity so much weaker than all the other forces? The kinds of answers that this theory gives to these questions seem so patently absurd that we think that we're missing something very, very big. And on top of all of that, there's one prediction of this theory, absolutely crucial for it to even make internal theoretical sense. And this is the famous Higgs particle. The Higgs or something like it must show up. If it doesn't show up, there's something truly deeply wrong, very, very deeply wrong with the way we think about physics. There's strong reasons to think that at least some of these questions will find answers at the LHC. There's been no shortage of ideas for what they might be. But this is really this generation of people's, my generation of people's, only shot.
Même si les gens restent reliés, ils doivent se débrouiller. Le réseau du GPS est se débrouiller.
Ah, so the boss comes.
Non, je ne sais même pas, j'ai pas mangé, j'ai pas dormi, mais bon, j'ai pas besoin.
Non plus, mais bon. Et ça marche bien.
I first came to CERN in 1987, I was a very young undergraduate student, and I remember the first time I entered the site, I was a bit scared by the corridors in the CERN main site, so I was almost lost in those corridors. For me, it has been a wonderful experience because I had the chance of being involved right from the beginning and to see really an experiment from starting and from zero, essentially.
I've seen 2 event displays out of the 10, and we probably have seen the other ones.
I don't think I can describe right now the excitement about First Beam. I mean, the entire control room is like a group of 6-year-olds whose birthday is next week, you know, and there's going to be cake and there's going to be presents and all their friends are going to be there, and they just, you know, they just know it's going to be great.
You know, they're kind of scattered, and I can't imagine because they're not that big, right?
I've been a postdoc here for a year, so I'm a relative newcomer. But my timing is sort of perfect. I mean, to be on the ground floor when the data first comes, it's awesome.
It means I have 5,000 emails.
There's a huge difference between theorists and experimentalists. I mean, when I started college, I absolutely did not want to do physics. Physics meant to me everything that was boring. Textbooks, theories, proofs. But then I discovered the experimental side. And the experimental side is the hands-on aspect. It's about taking a theory, which is abstract, and making it real. How do you build an experiment to discover something that the theory predicts? And that aspect is what I love.
Bon, c'est très bizarre. Oui, arrive ton salle contrôle. Parce que ça, c'est bizarre. Il voulait savoir le larme. Je ne sais pas si c'est implémenté pour nous. Ok, bon, à tout à l'heure. Alors, ciao. So, das haben wir wirklich schon, das haben wir, wir waren da noch nie da unten.
Of course, when constructing the whole thing, we several times thought, what if the whole thing just does not work? Now, I really believe now this will work, but the next thing is, will we ever find something? So maybe we will just find nothing new. It would be a catastrophe for physics. Yeah? We would somehow, none of the open questions which we have at the moment would have been answered.
So the LHC is basically the most fundamental of experiments. It's like what any child would design as an experiment. You take 2 things and you smash them together. And you get a lot of stuff that comes out of that collision, and you try to understand that stuff. Now, in this case, what we're smashing together is tiny protons, which are inside the center of every atom. And in order to get them going as fast as possible, we have to build this huge 17-mile ring. And we run those protons around the ring multiple times to build up speed, almost to the speed of light. And then we collide 2 beams going in opposite directions at 4 points. And at those 4 points are 4 different experiments: ATLAS, LHCb, CMS, and ELISE. Now I work on the ATLAS experiment. And ATLAS is like a huge 7-story camera that takes a snapshot of every single collision. And that's billions of collisions. And the hope is that we'll see the very famous Higgs particle. But every time we've turned on a new accelerator at a higher energy, we've always been surprised. So the real hope is that we'll see the Higgs, but that there's also something amazingly new.
You can liken it to when we put a man on the moon. It's that level of collaborative effort. I would say it even bigger than that. This is closer to something like human beings building the pyramids. Why did they do it? Why are we doing it? We actually have 2 answers. One answer is what we tell people, and the other answer is the truth. I'll tell you both. And there's nothing incorrect about the first answer. It's just it's not the thing that drives us. It's not how we think about it. But it's something you can say quickly, and the person you're talking to won't, get diverted or pass out or pick up the Sky Mall catalog if you happen to be next to them on an airplane. Answer number 1, we are reproducing the physics, the conditions, just after the Big Bang. We're doing it in this collider, and we're reproducing that so we can see what it was like when the universe just started. This is what we tell people. Okay, answer 2. We are trying to understand the basic laws of nature. It sounds slightly more mild, but this is really where we are and what we're trying to do. We study particles because just after the Big Bang, all there was particles. And they carry the information about how our universe started and how it got to be the way it is and its future. At the beginning of the 1900s, it became clear that all known matter, everything that we know about, is made of atoms. And that atoms are made of just three particles: the electron, the proton, and the neutron. In the 30s, other particles were discovered. And by the 1960s, there were hundreds of new particles, with a new particle discovered every week. And there was mass confusion. Until a number of theorists realized that there was a simple mathematical structure that explained all of this. That most of these particles were made of the same three little bits we call quarks, and that there are only a handful of truly fundamental particles which all fit together in a nice, neat pattern. And there was born the Standard Model. Eventually, all the particles in the theory were discovered, except one, the Higgs. And the Higgs is unlike any other particle. It's the linchpin of the Standard Model. Its theory was written down in the 1960s by Peter Higgs and a number of other theorists. We believe it is the crucial piece responsible for holding matter together. It is connected to a field which fills all of space and which gives particles like the electron mass and allowed them to get caught in atoms, and thus is responsible for the creation of atoms, molecules, planets, and people. Without the Higgs, life as we know it wouldn't exist. But to prove that it's true, we have to smash particles together at high enough energy to disturb the field and create a Higgs particle. If the Higgs exists, the LHC is the machine that will discover it.
Let's assume you're successful and everything comes out okay.
Sure.
What do we gain from it? What's the economic return? How do you justify all this? By the way, I am an economist.
I don't hold it against you. The question by an economist was, what is the financial gain of running an experiment like this and the discoveries that we will make in this experiment? And it's a very, very simple answer. I have no idea. We have no idea. When radio waves were discovered, they weren't called radio waves because there were no radios. They were discovered as some sort of radiation. Basic science for big breakthroughs needs to occur at a level where you are not asking what is the economic gain, you are asking what do we not know and where can we make progress. So what is the LHC good for? Could be nothing other than just understanding everything.
The first time I ever saw Atlas was in 2005. I had come out just to see what Atlas would look like because there was a possibility that I could be working on it as a postdoc. I can remember walking in and just being like, just stunned. I mean, me stunned, already kind of having an idea of the magnitude. People tell you, oh, it's 5 stories tall. And you go, oh, okay, 5 stories tall. And then you see 5 stories completely filled with microelectronics. All custom designed, all hand soldered. It's like as if it's a 5-story Swiss watch.
There was this issue about the BCIDs.
We had our extended barrel out earlier, but it should be back in, and we should be everything running normal.
Okay, so one more announcement. We have to be extremely careful what we do to the system, right? I mean, we know that anybody who's even updating a number somewhere might stop our system for more than an hour quite easily. So please be absolutely sure that you yourself and everybody in your system is not touching the system unless it's been agreed by the shift leader. Yeah? Nothing should be touched. Yeah? And that includes all the things that you're absolutely dead certain they will not do anything wrong. Okay? Especially those things.
It's being called the largest scientific experiment in history, and some say one that could cause Armageddon.
It's the strangest experiment ever, mankind's most ambitious attempt to understand how we all got here.
Thousands of scientists from around the world have spent 20 years designing an extraordinary machine. It cost more than £5 billion and will be switching on very soon.
This is a Genesis machine, a window on creation.
Vedere tutta la fisica che già conosciamo fino ad andare.
Einfach nur zum Testen. Und danach wird nochmal.
They're looking for something called the God particle, but skeptics are saying nobody knows what will happen when they turn on the switch. A group of fringe scientists believe the collider might create a black hole that could swallow up the Earth, and they filed suit to stop the project from going forward.
Hello? No, absolutely not. Well, no, there is no scientific ground to what he's saying. It's not possible that the electricity is going to destroy the world. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, it is 9:15. We are 15 minutes away from beam. We've been sitting here about 7 o'clock, and absolutely nobody brought food. Again, 15 minutes to beam.
Ciao, ciao.
Stress levels are high.
Ciao.
But since I'm in a room full of Italians, the stress level is pretty cool here. But we have no coffee either. No coffee. Who didn't bring coffee?
What we're going to see today is the launch of the first beam of protons around this enormous ring. Very shortly, Lynn Evans, the project director, is going to be addressing CERN staff who are gathered at different points around this massive complex.
It's just the first glimpse at the fact that the machine can run. I mean, so what you need really is you need two beams colliding together for quite a long period of time before you get enough sufficient statistics in which to actually be able to look for the new physics. But the single beam, the first beam, isn't even that. You're not even getting any collisions. It's just one beam going around in the circle, not even at the high energies, just one beam going around in a low energy circle that sort of says, okay, we made it around the ring once for the first time. And it's a huge event, right? After 19 years, you've been waiting for this first step.
Let's get started, everybody. Now comes the day of reckoning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. No beam. Yeah. So where are we with the injection kicker? Oh, wait, they're out. Okay, never mind. Let's go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We get a beam on this pulse?
I hope so.
We know that the standard model is incomplete. We know that there's other stuff out there, that there are other particles that we haven't seen yet. Dark matter is a speculated particle which we think actually dominates the universe. And yet, we've never seen it directly, and it's not part of the Standard Model. That's one of those rocks. We think possibly that that and many other particles are still out there and are all part of a much bigger symmetry, a much bigger theory that includes the Standard Model, but much more. The most popular theory is called supersymmetry, or SUSY for short. Supersymmetry was a theory that sort of started to develop in the late 70s. Savas was one of the first authors of the first theories of supersymmetry.
Is the unfathomable depths of?
Supersymmetry is our best guess of what else is out there, the bigger theory that incorporates our current theories, the Standard Model. But for it to be true, we have to discover those other particles.
If I could choose a dream of any theory I think the LHC could find, actually I would love for them to see supersymmetry. Supersymmetry says for every type of particle, say the electron, there's a heavy superpartner. So you'd have and they have really stupid names, unfortunately. They're called the selectron. You just add an S to the name, the squark, the sup, this down. Supersymmetry, or SUSY, is extremely important for the theoretical community because it solves many mathematical problems with the Standard Model. Now, experimentally, it would be the experimentalist's dream. You know, tons of particles that are just coming out, and you just don't even know what to do with this. You know, can't even write the data fast enough in order to discover them. So that'd be my dream.
One of the most basic facts about the universe is that it's big. So you might wonder, why is the universe big? There's actually a single number called the cosmological constant that plays a crucial role in determining what the universe looks like. In fact, around 10 years ago, astronomers discovered a really remarkable fact. The universe is getting bigger and bigger at a faster and faster rate. But this rate is a million, billion, 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 billion times slower than what we'd actually predict. When you're off by a factor of a million, billion, 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 there's something very wrong with your understanding of basic physics. Even worse, this one number, the cosmological constant, needs to have this extremely precise value. And if the value is different even by a tiny bit, we would radically change what the world looks like around us. If you saw a situation where if the parameter has a very dangerous value, and you change it a little bit, the world would change radically and we'd be dead, we couldn't possibly live, you know, that you would wonder where that came from. You know, how is that possible? So just on the face of it, you would look at the situation and say, wow, someone really cared to put this parameter at just the right value so that we get to be here and that it's a pleasant universe and really cares a lot. This is the sort of thing that really keeps you up at night. It really makes you wonder, maybe we've got something about the whole picture, the big picture, totally, totally, totally wrong.
Before I went to elementary school, my mother started telling me biblical stories. She told me that if we are good, we'll go to paradise and we will stay there forever. And when she said forever, I started panicking. I kept asking, forever? 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 You mean it never ends? Like you wake up and you know that then you go back to sleep and this never ends, never ends, never ends. I started crying. She told me, "What's wrong with you? This is paradise. It will be a lot of fun. You'll be very happy there." But this idea of eternity, something infinite, scared me.
There is a scientific alternative to believing there's someone out there who loves us, twiddling the dials very finely for things to work out. And this alternative, said briefly, is that everything we see in our observed universe is actually a very small part of a much, much vaster multiverse. You might literally imagine that from some bird's eye point of view, if you went to enormous distances, you would see that our universe is actually a little pocket inside a vastly bigger space. In this picture, these mysterious numbers, like the cosmological constant, are actually basically random. And out there in the multiverse, next to us somewhere, is another region where these numbers take on some other random value. And then another region where they take on some other random value still. Only in a tiny sliver, minuscule part of this gigantic multiverse, for completely accidental reasons, do these numbers take on the very, very special values which allows structures to grow, stars to form, galaxies to form, ultimately things like us to form. This is the really opposite extreme interpretation of the presence of fine-tuning as intelligent designers would want to give. If you believe that someone out there cares and twiddles the parameters so that you can exist, that puts our existence at the very core of reality. If you believe that our entire universe is a tiny little minuscule speck in a gigantic multiverse which is mostly lethal, that's a polar opposite philosophy for what the universe looks like. In fact, it's an idea that many physicists loathe because certain questions then become things that we will not hope to be able to understand.
Nima is now an advocate for this idea that the laws of physics are different in different parts of this multiverse. That what we measure in experiments are not deep mysteries of nature, but they're just random accidents in our universe. That maybe even the Higgs itself is a random accident that has occurred in our universe and lets life exist, but has no explanation.
And indeed, welcome to CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Geneva. Welcome to the CERN Control Center.
Aujourd'hui est un grand jour pour les physiciens du monde entier. Les opérateurs du CERN vont tenter en effet pour la toute première fois de réaliser des collisions de particules à une énergie sans précédent.
We may discover additional forces, where we may discover additional space dimension, the Higgs boson. We may elucidate the mystery and the origin of the universe dark matter. And who knows, perhaps nature has prepared some nice surprises.
And here on the screen we can see the 4 different experiments: ATLAS, CMS, LHCb, and ALICE. And the program for today is to first send one beam in one direction, a second beam in the opposite direction. They will circulate in parallel for a while, and when everything is ready and under control, the separation is going to be removed and the beams are going to be made to collide in the 4 points around the LHC machine.
I just think to myself, if you imagine like Thomas Edison like inventing the light bulb, if he had tried to invent the light bulb with like 100 camera crews in his workshop, and they would have been like, oh my God, you can't even turn it on? Come on, turn it on now, come on. We're still waiting? Come on. Oh, come on. What's wrong with this guy?
So the violet is always one vertical, horizontal in one beam. But I mean, basically,
So a few minutes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye. They're a few minutes away from collapsing the separation bombs.
Okay, a few minutes away from collapsing the separation bombs.
Wow.
Everybody here?
Few minutes.
Few minutes, not
few minutes away. So we should watch that one, our trigger rate, this one, the separation bomb, and event displays. Okay, these are the three screens. If you have three eyes, one there, one here, and one there.
So, okay, we're at both beams at 3.5 TeV, and we've just collapsed the separation bumps and brought the beams into collision inside the 4 experiments.
Start.
Okay, just starting.
2 beams, one in blue, one in red, each circulating in opposite directions.
Okay.
They have to get closer and closer. When the numbers on the 4 readers say 0, it means that the beams are finally aligned. This is the historical moment we were all expecting. It can be any time now.
Wow. We are ready.
First things first.
It is August 7th, 2011, and this is a significant time for the LHC. The first big set of data was presented at the end of July. The data has little extra bits in it which could be interpreted as a Higgs. Even though the LHC is running at half power, it actually has gotten data much, much faster than anybody expected. And that allowed them to be sensitive to the Higgs boson.
The 2 3-to-1s. So the effect.
The mass of the Higgs, namely the weight of the Higgs, can actually tell us or give us a hint about what comes next. If the mass is on the lighter side, then that's consistent with some of the standard things we've been looking for. Supersymmetry generally favors that the Higgs is as light as possible. About 115 times the mass of the proton. It's 115 GeV, giga electron volts. If, on the other hand, the Higgs is 140 GeV, 140 times the mass of the proton, it's a terrible mass because 140 GeV is associated with theories that rely on the multiverse.
Atlas has a little bump here, a small excess visible near 140. Of course,
And now, holy crap, it's 140 It's starting to look like nature has made its choice.
What do we learn if the LHC does discover a Higgs at 140 and nothing else? Chaos. Okay.
The problem with the multiverse is that it says the Higgs might be the last particle we ever see.
So, what we should do, I think the Higgs mass issue.
If we don't see any new particles besides the Higgs, we don't get any explanation for dark matter. We don't know how the Higgs itself got a mass. We never get access to the deeper theory. All that information could be in the other universes. All of the new data that just came in didn't make the peak bigger. It sort of filled in the gaps. And now the peak doesn't look very good. In fact, the belief is that it's gone away and that the Higgs can't be 140 GeV. In order for us to believe that we've discovered it, that peak needs to be big and basically keep growing as the data comes in. It's a statistical thing. We call it the Greek letter sigma. If you reach a height of 5 sigma, that's when you know that you've seen something. And the probability that that just happens by accident is 1 in 3.5 million. But the Higgs, it's not at 140, which is a bit of a relief because there's still hope it might be down around 115. We like 115 because if the Higgs is that light, the theory says there has to be new particles, like supersymmetry. Otherwise, the universe is unstable. It wouldn't have survived this long. Well, faster than we thought. There's news that there's going to be another announcement about the Higgs. I've heard tons of rumors, and I've heard there are things on blogs, and there's already stuff in the newspaper.
18 hours or so until the announcement, so I'm really looking forward to what they're going to say.
My volume is up. I don't know why I'm not getting sound. There isn't like a thing on here with sound, is there?
Who reads lips here?
Can anyone see if they get sound? Try streaming it in their offices or something? Many apologies, guys. I don't know what's going on.
Peter Higgs.
Oh, there he is.
Here he is. Very good.
Someone with their iPad, just...
Not that well seated as my summer student.
No,
but...
right. Peter Higgs doesn't even get a good seat.
Good morning, everybody, here in Geneva.
today is a special day. We hear two presentations from the two experiments, Atlas and CMS. We are starting in the non-alphabetical order, and I ask Joe Incandela from CMS to take the floor.
Okay, so I will give the status of the CMS Higgs Search. I want to really dedicate this to the CMS collaboration. This is a picture we took last week. We had a party. This is only 400 or 500 people. Remember, there are 4,000 people in the experiment. This is not the real CMS detector. That's down underground. This is the spare that we keep upstairs. So, one page for the theorist. That's all they deserve. No, I'm kidding. The standard model is here. It's shown here. This is what we know. We have now but one of the big stories of this year was, as you know, those of you in the field, is pileup. We had to deal with very intense beams like never before seen in the field with many, many interactions. And this slide shows and it was in these kind of events that we're looking for one of the rarest particles ever made. And that's what we call the Higgs.
Where things stood last week. As you know, if you look at the radiative corrections to the W, the top square, the Higgs goes at the bottom. So if you know the W and top mass very well, you can actually predict along bands.
Yeah, so we get 4.
One of the temperature, they really had a tour de force measurement of the
Oh, sorry, yeah. Oh, here it is.
And we end up with 4 event classes.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so to wrap up, in summary, we conclude by saying that we have observed a new boson with a mass of 125.3 plus or minus 0.6 GeV at 4.9 standard deviations.
125.3. Okay, so now.
Wow, 125. Do we know Atlas's result? This is it.
You heard about this? Okay, I think I can only say congratulations to everybody. I will say a few words more later. Now we go immediately to Atlas Fabiola Gianotti, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Atlas is very pleased to present here today updated results on standard model Higgs searches based on up to 10.7 inverse femtobarn of data recorded in 2011 and 2012. And it's a big honor and a big emotion for me to represent this fantastic collaboration at this occasion. So let's go to the results for this channel. You can see here the results for the 2011 to 2012 and the combination of the two. The gamma jet and jet-jet background with one or both jet requiring that the energy in a cone around the photon is below. A structure which reproduces very well the LHC bunch train with a free bunch, small gauss. So then of course we collect by just giving an we know the linearity between a few GD and a few hundred GD at the level of a few. We fit to the 9 different categories with an exponential function to model the background, so no theoretical prediction, no Monte Carlo. The background is determined from the side bands, the signal from this spectrum, the ground fit. You get this plot here. Now the grand combination.
Here goes.
So this distribution is extremely clean, except one big spike here, in this region here. Excess with a local significance of 5.0 sigma at a mass of 126.5 GeV.
As a layman, I would now say, I think we have it. Okay.
Peter.
Peter is there.
Yeah, you get Peter. Peter's there. Peter.
Well, I would like to add my congratulations to everybody involved in this tremendous achievement. For me, it's really an incredible thing that has happened in my lifetime. Not only in your lifetime, Peter. It's taken...
Champagne bottles and cheering.
Now, the God particle, we physicists wince when we hear those words.
It's the last piece of the puzzle physicists have been looking for decades.
Thank you for your attention. Thanks to everybody on the panel. If I could just ask you all to remain seated just for a few minutes. Can we make a clear passage here, please? A clear passage here, please. Can we have a clear passage? Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
I felt a sense of pride for humanity. That, you know, we little people on a little planet with tiny brains can go so deep and understand what happens. Now we're talking about subnuclear distances 1,000 times smaller than an atomic nucleus. Nevertheless, we can get things right, and just the power of the human mind. It's astonishing that there are any laws of nature at all, that they are describable by mathematics, that mathematics is a tool that humans can understand, that the laws of nature can be written on a page. It's the greatest of all mysteries.
There is a very nice sentence in the Divine Comedy by Dante who says, nati non fummo a vivere come bruti, ma per seguire virtute e conoscenza, which means we were not born to live as animals, but to pursue knowledge and virtue. So science and knowledge are very important. Like art is very important. It's a need of mankind.
In exploration, and science is exploration, there needs to be the set of people who have no rules, and they are going into the frontier and come back with the strange animals and the interesting rocks and the amazing pictures, and to show us what's out there. Discover something.
Why do humans do science? Or why do they do art? The things that are least important for our survival are the very things that make us human.